The evening twilight enveloped the old cemetery, wrapping the tombstones in a gray veil. The trees, like sentinels, silently swayed over the graves, and the cold wind howled between the branches, creating an eerie atmosphere. Sergey, known for his love of ghost stories, decided to take a walk through this cemetery. He didn't believe in the paranormal, but he longed to experience some thrills. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a lonely grave without a name. It had no tombstone, no cross, only a rusty fence overgrown with moss. Sergey, driven by curiosity, approached it. At that moment, he heard a quiet, barely audible voice, like a whisper of the wind. "Help me." Sergey turned around, but saw no one. He thought he had just imagined it, but the voice spoke again. "Please, help." The voice came from under the ground. Sergey shuddered, but fear prevented him from leaving. He began to dig the earth with his hands, feeling the cold dirt seep under his nails. After a few minutes, he came across a wooden box. Creaking and crumbling, it fell apart under his hands. Inside lay a skeleton, dressed in rags. The skull was turned towards Sergey, a greenish light flickering in its empty eye sockets. "Freedom," the skeleton whispered, and its bones crumbled to dust. Sergey recoiled, gripped with horror. He wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't obey. At that moment, he heard someone walking behind him. "Help," came a moan. Sergey turned around and saw the ghost of a woman. She was pale, with dark circles under her eyes. "I'm trapped here," she cried. "Help me get out." Sergey didn't know what to do. He was paralyzed with fear. "Please," the woman pleaded. "You're the only one who can help me." Sergey gathered all his courage and stepped towards the ghost. "I'll help you," he said. At that moment, the ghost dissolved into the air. Sergey was left alone in the cemetery, trembling with cold and fear. He would never forget that night. Since then, he was no longer interested in ghost stories and avoided the cemetery. The next day, Sergey returned to the cemetery to find the grave without a name. However, no matter how much he searched, he could not find it, as if it had dissolved into the air, like the ghost of the woman. Sergey never found out who was buried in that grave and why his soul could not find peace, but he forever remembered this eerie story, which forever changed his attitude towards the paranormal.